Alright, so this is the second day and therefore second video of a potential, possibly competitive list. This is something I've never run before, but generally anything with redemptors is pretty popular. I'm not a super big fan of redemptors personally. You might notice I only wanted to run one in my eradication list. I really just don't find them very durable, which is really weird to say. 13 wounds, toughness 7, but yeah, I'm just not a big fan. But this is a super dread heavy list. Obviously, you can see there are 5 of them. 2 Venerable dreadnoughts. I know that one's kind of dubious on the Venerable, but he's got gold on him. He's open topped, right? He doesn't have that shield plate in front of the coffin. I think he counts. Good enough. Hitting on 2s there. But we'll go over it starting with HQs and then troops and then elites in an actual reasonable order, unlike last time. So, Captain is the Warlord here, which I know is a little bit different considering I have the Tech Marine and have so many guys, but the Captain is there so that he can get the Vox, whatchamacallit, again, extra 3 inches on the aura there, and that'll apply not only to his reroll ones, which would be helpful for the entire army, because we got a lot of shooting, and also because Rites of Battle, his Warlord trait, also as an aura, benefits from that extra 3-inch boost. That gives every core unit OBSEC. We got 3 Redemptors and 2 Venerable Dreadnoughts. All those happen to be OBSEC. They got pretty big bases, 9 inches. It's a pretty far reach here, especially on those guys. So hopefully that'll help us lock down objectives despite our lack of overwhelming numbers. So that's that. Apart from that, just relic, shield, sword. Honestly, it would be cheaper, and you would have a little more options with attachments on the dreadnoughts if he was a regular captain without the 15-point sword and shield. But it kind of is what it is. Okay, next is lieutenant. Super box standard, absolutely nothing. He's just there for reroll 2s or I don't anticipate having these dreadnoughts all close enough to each other. They'll benefit from Wisdom of the Ancients for rerolling 1s on wounds. That's why the lieutenant's there. 75 points, really easy pickup, in my opinion at least. Tech Marine, he is a Master of the Forge, paid the extra for that. Gave him the Tech Marine exclusive Warlord trait, which I believe adds 1 strength and 1 attack to all profiles of dreadnoughts. So I believe that brings the Redemptor Dreadnoughts to 5 attacks at strength 8. Definitely enough to punch through a lot of infantry and a lot of things like that. Sorry, I forgot to switch these guys out to flamers. I believe I actually have 2 of them kitted with flamers. I'll talk about that. Let me tell you, it's all magnetized, so it'll be an easy swap out. So the HQs, talk about troops really quick. It's 3x10 intercessors, obviously. So I have some work to do here. Just to bring it up to the same standards as these guys, but I really think 3x10 is a good choice here. A lot of people will tell you run 5-man squads. You get an extra sergeant attack, which again I really don't think is that important. And it's like it gives you extra flexibility. Well, we're frankly Ultramarines. We like to shoot. The 2 CP rapid fire is real important if you're gonna run this kind of blob style intercessors. And if it's real bad and you know it's gonna be real bad, take one of these squads, combat squad it. Probably gonna be the ugly one. And that way you can hold your backfield a little bit better and keep 2 blobs of 10, right? I think our actual flexibility comes from the fact that we got combat squads, and I ain't sweating the 1 extra attack from the sergeant or the 1 extra leadership, because we're +1 leadership with Ultramarines. So that's the thinking behind that. 3x10 intercessors, I really like them. 20 shots, 40 if we're doing rapid fire, rerolling 1s, AP2 in tactical doctrine, which is phenomenal. Hitting on 3s. Yeah, I figure we'll be re-rolling 1s, and at least one of these guys got to be in range of the Wisdom of the Ancients or the Lieutenant at some point. So re-rolling 1s to hit and re-rolling 1s to wound. I think that's pretty hard to argue with for 40 shots. So that's that. Moving on, it's time for elites. Obviously, the 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I spoke about them a little earlier. So here is the problem. I find Redemptor Dreadnoughts, because they have such a big base, not only are they slightly hard to maneuver depending on how terrain heavy the map is, but also they get touched in combat very, very easily, right? Just as easily as my auras reach out and are able to touch them, things are able to touch and kind of come up pretty close. Just compared to the Venerable Dreadnought base size. You can't even see the Venerable Dreadnought past the Redemptor. So as a result, I find them getting tagged a lot. I play a few Tyranids players, played some Eldar, Craft World guys, played some Necrons. They get touched in a lot, and then after that, they've only got the 5 swings and the Onslaughts and the Stormbolters. And you know what? The Stormbolters, just the AP -1, really it's not going to do it. And if you have the Macro Plasma and you're doing Blast, and the Icarus Rocket Pods and you're doing Blast, you can't even shoot into combat like you could with the Onslaught Gatling. So the idea there for one of these Onslaught Gatling Redemptors is going to have a Flamer. I'm not exactly sure on which one, but I have dropped the Icarus Rocket Pods from all 3 of them just for points. Again, that 15 points difference is the points that are spent on the captain because I don't have a regular captain because I'm poor. So dropped them on all of them there, and then threw on to save even more points a Flamer onto the Macro Plasma Redemptor and one of those Flamers on the Onslaught. Also just for Overwatch purposes, right? I talked last time about defensive focus, which I think is one of the best stratagems we've got, especially against horde armies or things that are rushing us down. With the Flamer that way, we get pretty much what is guaranteed hits on Overwatch, right? So our defensive focus really feels like it's got a lot of value in it for that Flamer. The Flamer is 12 inches, so if they're charging, they have to be within 12 inches to make the charge, so the shots are not an issue whatsoever. So that's the reason behind that. Kept the Onslaught Gatling. I have an Excel sheet that shows, bar none, the 5 points on Onslaught Gatling are super efficient for damage output, but in the case that we're getting touched in and not shooting at maximum range, I think the Onslaught is 24 inches. It's not terribly far compared to some of the other stuff they usually fire. The 5 points are always basically worth it, but because I get touched in so often, I'm going to lean towards the Flamers. When I run this list, maybe in a casual game in the next few weeks, I will determine if those Flamers were a good pickup. Moving on, just 2 Venerable Dreadnoughts, one with the Plasma, one with the Assault Cannon, just for the variation. I feel that already running 2 Gatling Cannons, I really don't need the extra volume of fire, plus that Assault Cannon only's got 6 shots. It's actually quite weak. I really think for 135 points, they are super inefficient just for damage, especially with that Plasma. Doesn't put out a lot of shots. And for 20 extra points for a las gun, I think that is ridiculous considering how swingy those things are, d6 damage. So this is how I have them kit them out. Real simple. They both got Stormbolters underslung. I know that's not a Venerable Dreadnought arm, but you know, what are you going to do? Right, they got a Stormbolter here, they got the Stormbolters underslung on the arm. He has a Stormbolter right here, not under the arm, so I really think he's okay. Just don't tell anybody. But yeah, those are those 2 chaps. You can see I have them numbered all correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ultramarines, we gotta play it by the book. So those are the Dreadnought choices. Sorry, hitting on 2s really great. I mean, that's right. Command phase, you elect a Dreadnought to be +1 to hit. So only one of my Redemptor Dreadnoughts will be hitting on 2s for the game, but those guys will hit on 2s all the time. Hopefully re-rolling 1s. I mean, basically what 6 shots confirmed versus 12 shots. We'll see on the hit. I guess they're kind of okay, but I do think they're pretty points inefficient. Moving on, fast attack, last slots here. Same bolter guys from before. I know it kind of will look like here that I'm missing a lot of good AP shots. I definitely would understand that argument. Might be dropping one of these Gatling Cannons for a Plasma. We'll see. But just Inceptors, death from above, dropping down, might be taking enemy backfield objectives if they're not screened out quite right. Might just be trying to drop somewhere in the deployment zone and get behind enemy lines if it's one of those weird slanted ones that are really common in those GT packs now. That's pretty much the only thinking there. Same thing with the squad of 3 suppressors. Got death from above, they can drop down. I'm more likely actually to put these guys in reserve and put the suppressors on the table turn 1. They got that, I think it's a 45-inch threat range. Let me turn around and check before I lie. Let's see here. Here we go. 48-inch threat range. That's a heavy 3-shot, strength 7, AP -1. So it'll be a good target for infantry. So they actually, for a squad of 3, it's going to be 9 shots total. Any hit on the model would prevent overwatch. Obviously, I'm not going to be charging that much, if ever, but it's going to be just do 9 shots, hitting on 3s. I'd probably deploy them close to the captain, re-rolling 1s. Maybe I'd even put them close to the lieutenant, or the big 6-inch aura around a big base redemptor dreadnought. So maybe even re-rolling 1s through wound. I'd expect to see like 7 or 8 of those shots make their mark. Considering strength 7, so against low toughness infantry, be wounding on 2s. Yeah, I'd expect those to do good. Maybe cut out some of the weenie horde stuff early on, blunt their initial stuff, maybe throw off their plans if I go first. Obviously, we prefer to go second for Oath of Moment, if that's what I decide to take, but, that's what those guys are for. This list actually has 2 sets of 3 suppressors. The second set of 3 is right there. Obviously, much more work to do on those than I have on the intercessors over there. That is exactly 2,000 points for the list. Again, it's Captain, Lieutenant, Tech Marine, 3 Redemptors, 2 Venerable Dreadnoughts, 30 Intercessors total, 3 Inceptors with Bolters, and 6 Suppressors. That is the entirety of it. Again, on secondaries, I'm liking behind enemy lines because I have so much death from above stuff, and they move so fast. I could keep them in cover or keep them on top of a building. There are obviously more dangerous things for them to shoot at, especially if I have the Redemptors out of cover. It's like, yeah, either you shoot at the Redemptors, or they're going to blast you back for plasma or 12 onslaught Gatling shots. Or you shoot at the suppressors, who have 9 shots, and yeah, they're annoying. They'll pretty much always kill your infantry, but you got to focus on something here. The Venerable Dreadnoughts, pretty lackluster, pretty small. I expect to be able to actually hide them around a little more than you'd expect, because they're so small for line of sight purposes, and because they're so weird and not a very frequently picked thing. I'm thinking maybe they'll target the Redemptors over the Venerable. Either way, someone's going to be sucking up the fire. The Intercessors, solid base of fire, I think, so keep a lot of hordes off, especially double firing. Also keep the hordes off, right? The Flamers. I'm thinking against horde armies, we got the obvious kill stuff objectives, or secondaries, which I am always a big fan of. But yeah, behind enemy lines, looking at Oath of Moment, I'm also looking at this list compared to the Eradicators. If I get touched into combat, the Intercessors still got decent amount of punches, as does the Captain, obviously with the sword. The Redemptors with blessings, and the Warlord trait from the Tech Marine also get a lot more punches. I don't think we're too afraid to be to get touched in here, and if we do get touched in, by the time they get to us, hopefully a good third of their force is dead. We got a free death from above, drop in from behind, secure behind enemy lines, things like that. With this much infantry, probably almost always when you combat squadding at least 1 intercessor squad. That sounds like 2 rods to me, 1 in each side of the table, at least in the first turn, right? So rod is looking pretty good. Retrieve Octarius data, kill stuff, behind enemy lines, Oath of Moment, all I think are good options. If it were to boil down to who my most expensive units are, it would actually be the 3 intercessors, because they're 200 points apiece. If I were to do something like While We Stand, it'd be a little weird, but actually if enough of them hung back far enough, they would certainly live. Don't know that it'd be particularly great. We could go for Stranglehold too, just because I have the Obsec with the Captain's aura of 9 inches. Yeah, Stranglehold. I'm not sure if I would take Engage on all fronts. It would kind of have to be situational. I'd have to see what their deep strike zoning out would be to keep my guys dropping down from the heavens away from deep strike, because I'd have a hard time without fast attackers on the board making it to 3/4. Obviously, I could deploy 1 set of fast attack on the board. You can generally get to 2 table quarters from your deployment zone, and then I'd drop down another turn to kind of lock it all down. I don't know. I think there are a lot of options for secondaries here. Really, this is a much more flexible list than the last one, where I felt very locked in to secondary. So we'll kind of see how this plays in the next week or two here, or in a practice game that I'm going to play in about 2 days. So that is it for Ultramarines competitive question mark unit 2. I call this a dread heavy list because it's got 5 dreadnoughts. That's it.